What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Lines and Yak Fishing. I'm Justin Patrick, and today I'm excited about this video. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I'm going to be giving you my top 3 lures for fishing from the bank. Whether you're new to fishing or you've been fishing for a while, these are 3 lures that I would recommend to anybody fishing from the bank. And I'm going to get into all the ins and outs and the whys of why these are my top 3. And at the end, I'm going to give you a bonus one just for good measure. But this is something that I really enjoyed doing. Growing up. In fact, this is how I learned to fish. My memories of fishing as a kid were with my dad. Fishing from the bank. Wherever we could find. But I just really enjoyed getting out there on my own. When my dad wasn't available working and stuff like that, and going around and finding those little niche ponds. Maybe they were on private land, maybe they weren't. I don't know. I'm not recommending getting on anybody's private property, but there's some good fishing to be had and to be done, from the bank. If you can get out there and you can find those unpressured ponds and lakes that nobody is really messing with. So if you're in those shoes right now, whether you're a young guy or you just don't have access to any kind of boat or kayak or anything, man, don't feel bad, because there's a lot of good fishing and a lot to be learned with fishing from the bank. So my top 3 lures, kind of come in as a lot of these I used when I was a kid, and I caught a lot of fish on them. Even into my adulthood, before I got into kayak fishing. These are lures that I caught a lot of big fish on, and I'm gonna give you some exact colors too of baits that I've thrown over the years fishing from the bank. But let's just get right into it, man. I'm excited about this. I still enjoy bank fishing when I can. It's just a fun way to get people involved with your kids, other adults. Maybe again, like I said, you don't have that access to a boat, or they just don't want to go out on a boat. Whatever the case may be, bank fishing there's still a lot of fun to be had. So we're going to start off with number 1, and I'm going to kind of go. There's really no order of importance here. They're all great lures, and I'm going to give you a rod and reel setup that I would recommend to anybody fishing from the bank. Now, a couple things to really take into consideration when you're fishing from the bank. If you're doing that right now, then you know this already. But there's a lot to contend with. One of the things about bank fishing is if you consider the contour definition of a pond or a lake, you're up on the shallowest part of that body of water. And so when you throw your bait out, you're dragging your lure. If it's a bottom dragging bait or swimming, you're coming up that contour definition. So just imagine like a bowl. A lot of your ponds don't have a ton of contour definition to them. They're essentially kind of like a bowl shape, and but you're still coming up that contour definition. So any kind of rock, debris, trash, unfortunately, limbs, laydowns, all that kind of stuff, you're coming up against that cover. So you have a much greater chance of getting snagged. I remember going out to the lakes, and I would just have a bag full of weights, a quarter ounce of lead, weight, 4-aught, offset worm hook, just a whole bag full of them. And I would go through them so fast just because you're getting hung up. And with that being said, you don't have really the luxury of being able to go out and retrieve your lure. So, I like to recommend lures that are going to be a little bit more snag free, a little bit more weedless, per se. So let's get into number 1, and I think it's going to come in with really no surprise here, but that is a Texas rig. A Texas rig. I'm gonna recommend a 1/8 ounce to a 3/16 ounce, up to a quarter ounce. Weight doesn't have to be tungsten. I know that's the big push with a lot in the industry right now, but guys, you can still catch fish on a lead weight. And let's just be honest. A lot of your ponds and stuff like that are going to have a mud bottom, so there's not really a whole lot that you're going to be able to fill down there that often. But we're trying to keep this cost efficient. I'm considering that you're either walking out to a pond, parking the truck, walking out there, you're carrying a tackle box. And again, guys, you can throw whatever you want. You can fish with whatever you want, tungsten, wherever you want to use. This is just what I'm recommending to you. If you want to get into it, you want to try it out, you want to catch some big fish, and you want to know 3 good lures, these are 3 that I'm going to recommend. So 1/4 ounce, 3/16, 1/8 ounce weight, and a 4/0 EWG hook. And now the reason I'm going to recommend the EWG hook over the straight shank hook is because the EWG hook opens up more opportunities, more bait selections when it comes to soft plastic. So, um, this is one that I threw quite a bit. Again, I've still got them right here. A culprit 7.5-inch worm. This specific color is crawdad, and this color really caught a lot of fish for me, a lot of big fish for me growing up, and I still keep a good stock of them laying around. But with that EWG hook, you can go from a worm like that to something like Missile Bait's D-Bomb, which is a little bit, has a little bit chunkier profile, a little bit thicker. So that EWG hook is going to give you a little bit more space in between the hook and the soft plastic, which is going to give you a little bit more room for that hook to penetrate through and still have plenty of hook exposed to be able to catch that fish. Now, that's not to say you can't use an offset worm hook or something like that. If that's all that you have, by all means, man, rig it up and go out there and cast it. You're going to catch fish. But if you want to be a little bit more efficient, the EWG hook is going to be my recommendation, just because it gives you a little bit more diversity with the types of lures that you can use. Now, when it comes to line and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't go anything less than like 16-pound line, 15-pound line. A lot of my Texas rigging that I do, I use somewhere around 16-pound Sunline FC Sniper, or up to 18-pound, or even up to 20-pound Sunline FC Sniper. If you're fishing dirtier water, I would recommend go up and weight a little bit. The only problem that you get with that, with going up in that line diameter, is it could decrease your castability with that lighter sinker. So if you're making bomb cast out in the middle of the pond, maybe you got some standing timber out there, it's maybe a little bit deeper, maybe go up and weight, go up to that 1/4 ounce weight to be able to cast that bait out there. All right, let's go into number 2. Now, one of the great things about bank fishing, and one thing that you can learn about from bank fishing, is how to parallel banks and the importance of paralleling cover and banks and contours and stuff like that. Largemouth bass, which are going to be your predominant bass species in those ponds and those small lakes, they like to live shallow, so you're right up there, you're on the bank, you're next to all that shallow cover. So you have the ability to target that cover pretty effectively. And if you can't get a Texas rig in there, or maybe you just need, if it's too shallow to be able to pitch that Texas rig in there, maybe you're getting snagged a little bit too much, then some kind of moving bait may be a better option. So again, kind of sticking with that weedless type presentation, I'm going to really recommend a swim jig. This one in particular is just a 3/8 ounce swim jig. That's probably where I would start. 3/8. A couple of colors that I would recommend: green pumpkin, a little bit of black, maybe a little bit of, black and blue, something like that for those that dirtier water conditions. And then the trailer, you can choose whatever kind of trailer you want. I like a Zoom Z Crawl or the Zoom Z Crawl Junior. If I want a little bit smaller of a profile, I'll go with that Z Crawl Junior. But if I'm looking for a really big bite, I really like that full size Z Crawl. And the other benefits of it is it keeps that bait, because this thing has so much action and kicks so well. It really keeps that bait up in the water column. So if you want to keep it up in a foot or less, you just want to run right over the top of that lay down or that brush pile or rocks or whatever it may be out there, having that action with that swim jig is going to allow that bait to lift up like that. If you want something with a little less action, you can go with some kind of like a Zoom double tail grub or single tail grub. The spinnerbait trailer is a really good one. It just has that little little double kicking legs. I forget exactly what it's called. I use them all the time. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a lot of great trailers out there for you to use to kind of adjust to the conditions that you're facing. Now, I'm going to kind of throw another one in there with it just because it's so popular and it catches fish. And really, in my opinion, man, they're kind of the same thing. One just has a blade and the other does not, but that is the chatterbait. Now with the chatterbait over the swim jig, just kind of a side-by-side comparison here. The chatterbait does not have a weed guard. Now there are some chatterbaits out there. The chatterbait Z-Man makes it. Forget what it's called. I think maybe the cross eyes or something like that. But there is a model that has a weed guard on it, so you still get that blade action, and you are a little bit more weedless. But if you have a little bit more open water and you can get away, you feel comfortable throwing something like the jackhammer. Another really good one is the Chatterbait Custom. They sell at Tackle Warehouse, and I believe the equivalent to that is the Chatterbait Pro model, and that specific model may be a little off. I'm not a huge Z-Man guy, so so pardon me if I got the make and model a little wrong. But they do have a weedless option out there. But those two are going to be my moving baits for subsurface. Now, the third one we're going to talk about, and we cannot overlook it. You got to have a top water. Some of my biggest fish as a kid was throwing a finesse buzzbait. So I'm going to recommend a finesse buzzbait just because you're fishing those, you're fishing those smaller ponds. You've got a lot of small bait and stuff like that in there. But just for the old sake of it, a full-size buzzbait is going to catch the biggest fish in that lake. This is a Mega Bass Jamaica Boa buzzbait. It's got a really nice big aluminum blade on there, puts off a lot of action, and it has this little brass grommet right here that it kicks up against. Now this one's a little bit used, so it's kind of bent a little bit, but it kicks up against that little brass grommet right there and really puts out a lot of sound signature and draws those fish from a long way. Now with these two setups, 18, 20-pound Sunline, fluorocarbon or monofilament, whichever one you want. With that buzzbait, I would really recommend going with 20-pound or even braid. But considering that, if you're going out there with one or two rod setups, something that you can interchange out between these three baits, I would probably stick with, 18 or 20-pound line for that buzzbait setup. You can easily cut that off and go back to the swim jig or the chatterbait, or even that Texas rig. All right, so those are my top three lures. Now, the bonus lure is going to come in with the rod and reel recommendation. Now, I recall a lot of times my frustration with fishing from the bank was just smacking trees left and right. You've got so many overhanging trees next to you. You're on the bank with all that growth, all that overbrush and stuff like that. Sometimes you may have one cast that you can make, or you may have to climb up the tree with the old chainsaw or hacksaw or something like that, and and clear out a little bit more casting space for you. But a 7-foot rod, something 7 foot, maybe even 6'8" to 6'9", 6'10", somewhere in that range. But it's a good 7-foot medium heavy action rod is going to give you enough rod action, enough power to be able to cover all your bases. Now, what I would recommend as far as the action goes, medium heavy, something with a little bit more of a parabolic action to it. You don't want a broomstick, and the industry is it's just kind of weird with the rods. Everybody's rods are different, even up to, heavies and heavy actions. I've got some heavies that are stiffer than some extra heavies that I have. So, it just kind of varies, but a good recommendation that I would make, this is made by Little Miami Outfitters. This is their Proteus line of rods, 7 foot. It's a really good rod. It's got a nice parabolic action to it. It's really easy to handle, really lightweight, super sensitive, really great rod. And we're going to throw in that lipless crankbait as that bonus lure. Now the lipless crankbait kind of goes against the grain with all of these lures, because this is not weedless by no means. But the benefits of a lipless crankbait is, again, you're fishing relatively shallow water. You can really make a really bomb cast with a lipless crankbait and get it out there a long ways. So those are my top three lures with the bonus lure, rod and reel recommendation, that 7-foot Little Miami Outfitters Proteus rod is a great selection. You can go to littlemiamioutfitters.com and check those out. They run about that $149, $150 mark, but you get a lot of really good quality rod for that price point. And then the reel, this is where it's going to kind of, you know, um, I would really recommend a 7-to-1 gear ratio. So like a 7-to-5 1 gear ratio. This is the Lew's Custom Pro SLP, and I've got 20-pound Sunline FC Sniper on this particular setup. But I've got that set up for fishing real shallow flats with grass on for a tournament that I have coming up. So anyways, guys, I hope this helps. I wanted to do this video for a little while for all my bank fishermen, people that are getting into the sport in 2023, that are looking for some bait, selections. There you go. All three of these, all four of them are going to be able to put some fish in your boat. Just be careful with that lipless crankbait. If you're going to throw a lipless from a pond, I would definitely have a handful of them because you're going to lose some. But anyways, guys, with that being said, thank you for tuning into today's video. If you like this stuff, man, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. It just kind of helps to get my videos out there to more people. Hit that like button. Let me know that you enjoy, this content. And then I always enjoy hearing from my subscribers or my viewers. So leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Guys, until next video, y'all take care, and we'll see you on the water. Peace.